Chapter 1. Visiting Time. I am not scared. No, not me. I am very scared. I hate the smell of hospitals. It smells of medicine, sick people, and fear. I don't know what I will see when I see her. My mother, I mean. Luckily, Auntie Sui Eng is with me. She makes me feel safe. She is old, but I don't mind. She will help me face whatever is behind that white door. The nurse calls us. She wears a clean white uniform. She opens the door to the private room. Auntie Sui Eng holds my hand. Her hand feels warm. Together we go into the room. I think it is strange. I am only 16, but I am much taller than Auntie Sui Eng. She is very small and old. But even though I am tall, I feel scared. I am glad she is with me. She is small, but she is strong. The room is dark. The corridor outside is bright, so my eyes take time to adjust. Slowly, I start to see. I see a bed, a small table with a glass, and some plastic curtains around the bed. I see someone in the bed. Tubes are coming out of her nose and arms. There is a bottle on a stand connected to the tubes. A machine next to the bed has red and green lights. On another table, there are medicine bottles and trays. There is a chair near the bed and a sink in the corner. On the bed, I can see a chart. The window has dark green curtains that are closed. It looks like a TV screen turned off. Auntie Sui Eng and I stand near the door. The person on the bed does not move, but I hear her breathing. I see the sheets move up and down as she breathes. Slowly, we walk to the bed. Auntie Sui Eng makes me sit in the chair. Is this my mother? Her face is pale. She wears a white hospital nightdress. Her eyes are closed. A tube is in her arm, and another one is in her nose. I take her hand. Her skin feels dry like paper. She doesn't move. It feels like holding a doll. Suddenly, I feel her hand squeeze mine. It is a small movement, but it is a sign she is alive. Her eyes stay closed. Her face does not move. She feels far away, like she is on another planet. Is this really my mother? Is this really happening? How did this happen? Why is she here so sick? Is it my fault? What did I do wrong? What did we all do wrong? My heart feels heavy. I feel sadness, anger, and fear. She must be very sick because she is in the intensive care unit. My head spins and I feel dizzy. I cannot think clearly. I cannot stay here anymore. I need to leave. Everything has happened so quickly. This morning, they let me leave the police station. Auntie Sui Eng came to take me here. Now that I see my mother, I know I was wrong about many things. Come on, Chi Sang. We should go now. Auntie Sui Eng says softly. She understands how I feel. I look one last time at my mother on the bed. Then I follow Auntie Sui Eng into the bright corridor. The nurse takes us to a quiet waiting room. She gives us cold drinks. Don't worry, says Auntie Sui Eng. The doctor will come and talk to us soon. Chapter 2. The Best of Times. As I sit in the plain white waiting room, I start thinking about my family. What happened to us? When did everything go wrong? Just a year ago, everything was perfect, or at least it felt that way. Dad was doing well at work. He had just been promoted to export manager at Intercorp. On weekends, we often went out together as a family. We had a nice house in a green suburb of Kuala Lumpur called Subang Jaya. Mom and Dad loved having friends over for lunch, dinner, or parties. My parents, Mr. Sammy, Yo, and Linda, were popular and happy. When I think about those times, it feels like they were golden days, full of light. Dad was the most important person in my life. He was a great father and was always there for me. Most days after work, he would take me to the park at the top of our street. We played football, or he helped me practice basketball. He also helped me with my homework, especially maths. Dad was amazing at maths. No wonder he got promoted. Every night he read me stories before bed. He even read the whole Lord of the Rings to me. It took months. Dad taught me to swim and arranged tennis lessons for me. Everything about him feels warm and golden in my memory, even now, after everything that has happened. So, when did it all start to go wrong? I think back to my last birthday. I turned 16, and Mom and Dad threw me a big party. Both Mom and Dad came from big families, so our house was full of uncles, aunts, and cousins. On top of that, they had many friends who I called Uncle and Auntie, even though they weren't really family. Auntie Vina and Uncle Krish were there too. They were Mom and Dad's closest friends. My best friends from school came as well. Dev, Faisal, and Kachun were my closest buddies. Dev, short for Devinder, was Indian Malaysian. He lived on the same street as us in Subang Jaya. He was great at sports, especially hockey. Faisal, who came from a Malay family, lived around the corner. And Kachun, who was Chinese Malaysian, lived far away in a fancy neighborhood. We were all different, but that didn't stop us from being the best of friends. Mum was an amazing cook, and so were her friends. The party had so much delicious food. Our Indian friends brought samosas and all kinds of curries. The Malay friends brought satay with peanut sauce and spicy beef rendang. Our Chinese relatives brought Hainan chicken rice, spicy Szechuan tofu, and Peking duck with thin pancakes. Auntie Suiyang and Auntie Rosie, who were Straits Chinese, brought Peranakan dishes like asam laksa. That was my favorite, a sour and spicy fish soup with tamarind. And then came the cake. Mum brought in a huge birthday cake with 16 candles. Everyone sang for me, and it was one of the happiest days of my life. Yet even though everything seemed perfect, something felt strange. Once or twice I noticed Mum looking at Auntie Vina in a strange way. Auntie Vina was Indian Malaysian and very beautiful. When she was younger, she had won a beauty contest and was called the Beauty Queen of Selangor State. On my birthday, she wore a dark red silk sari with a gold border and had white jasmine flowers in her hair. Mum was also good-looking, but in a different way. Uncle Krishnan, Auntie Vina's husband, was the opposite of her. He was bald and had a big stomach. Sometimes I wondered why Auntie Vina married him. But Uncle Krishnan was funny, and he was Dad's best friend from school and university. Mum and Auntie Vina were also close. They laughed and joked together often. Before Mum married Dad, she had worked at a company owned by Auntie Vina's father. That's how they became friends. The four of them spent a lot of time together, especially on weekends. That's why Vina and Krishnan were at my birthday party. I remembered something else too. After we finished eating the delicious food and cutting the cake, I went to my room with my friends. We played the video games they had given me as presents. The adults stayed downstairs. Some sat on the terrace outside, while others relaxed in the lounge. Some even fell asleep in their chairs after the heavy meal. Later, I went downstairs to get some cold drinks for my friends. As I left my room, I saw Dad and Auntie Vina on the stairs. They were looking at each other in a way I had never seen before. Dad had his hand on her bare arm. When he saw me, he quickly moved his hand away. They both looked embarrassed. Dad mumbled something as he walked past me and went upstairs. Auntie Vina hurried down the stairs. I didn't think much about it at the time. I went back to my room and forgot all about it when Dad came in later with a big basket. I heard scratching sounds from inside. When he opened it, I saw a small black and white dog, the one I had wanted for so long. "What should we call him?" Dad asked. "Let's call him Raj," I said. Everyone clapped, and Raj barked as if he agreed. It was the perfect day. From that moment on, Raj became my best and most loyal friend. But now, as I sit in the hospital, waiting for the doctor, my thoughts are dark. I think about Dad, and another memory comes back. One I wish I could forget. I see the bedroom, I hear the cries, and I see the moving bodies on my parents' bed. I can't stop this image. It is burned into my mind, like the mark an iron leaves on a shirt. How did this happen? Why did this happen? Why couldn't we stay happy forever? These painful thoughts fill my mind, and tears fill my eyes. Auntie Suyang notices how upset I am. She takes my hand and gives it a gentle squeeze. I look up at the clock. When will the doctor come? Chapter 3. The Worst of Times. The clock ticked slowly as I sat in the uncomfortable chair in the waiting room. After my birthday party, things began to change. Not with one big event, but through small signs. Teenagers can sense when something's wrong, even if no one says anything. I felt it after my birthday, like something bad was about to happen. I didn't know what, but it slowly replaced my happiness. Dad started coming home later and later. Mom said it was because of a new product launch, but it didn't stop. He wasn't there for football or basketball anymore. I missed him. One day, I came home to find Mom upset, with red, swollen eyes. She tried to hide it, but didn't smile as usual. Puri, our maid, seemed different too, quiet and worried. One day, I overheard Puri on the phone talking to her friend about the problems at home. She was worried about me noticing that something was wrong. The house grew quieter. There were no more family outings, and Dad stayed in his study or came home late. I asked Mom why we didn't go out like before, but she snapped at me to ask Dad. One evening, I overheard a heated argument between Mom and Dad. He told her to be thankful for the house and money, but Mom shouted back. I heard a loud slap, then silence. The next day, Dad was gone, and Mom had a red mark on her cheek. I didn't ask any questions. Later, I went back home early from a friend's house. Dad's car was in the driveway, but the house was dark except for a light upstairs. As I quietly walked up the stairs, I heard voices from Mom and Dad's bedroom. laughter, and strange, excited sounds. I looked inside the half-open door and saw Auntie Vina with Dad. That was the moment everything changed forever. Chapter 4. The Aftershock. I don't know how I got through that night. I locked myself in my room and sat there, frozen. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Dad and Auntie Vina. I must have fallen asleep eventually because when I woke up, Dad's car was gone. I spent Sunday alone. I felt confused and sad. I didn't feel like eating, and I couldn't meet my friends. My dog Raj stayed close to me, confused like me. I was still sitting there when Puri came home at 5 p.m. She asked if I was okay, and I started crying. She hugged me, and I slowly started feeling better after she gave me my favorite snack. When Mum came home at 8 p.m., she was angry and upset. She immediately asked where Dad was. I didn't know. She went upstairs and I followed her. Her room was a mess. Dad's things were gone. Mum started crying and shouting, calling Dad a coward for leaving. I tried to comfort her, but she pushed me away, yelling at me to leave. I ran to my room, feeling scared and confused. She wasn't the same anymore. Later, I heard Mum talking on the phone. Auntie Suyang came over, and they talked in hushed voices. I listened from the top of the stairs. Auntie asked when it started and if Dad would come back. Mum shouted that she didn't want him back. They also talked about how Mum would manage and about me, but I couldn't hear it all. I eventually fell asleep on the stairs, exhausted. When I woke up, Mum was holding me, stroking my hair, and telling me everything would be okay. Chapter 5. Sons and Mothers. I woke up feeling a bit better after Mum's words the night before, but school was hard. I stayed away from my friends because I didn't know how to explain my weekend. I found a quiet spot in the library. Mum surprised me by picking me up from school, something she never did. She took me to the ice cream shop and made dinner for me. She was trying to act normal, but everything felt off. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what I had seen. I had nightmares and woke up scared. I ate ice cream to calm down, then went back to bed. The next few days were tough. Mum's mood changed constantly. Some days she was kind, other days she was angry. I tried to act normal, but I felt sad and alone. I couldn't focus on school, and my grades started dropping. Mum was upset when she found out. One day she yelled at me for not doing my homework. I wanted to tell her about Dad, but I knew it would only make her angry. I felt like I was pretending everything was fine, but it wasn't. School was hard, but my friends, Dev, Faisal, and Kachun, were there for me. One day, I finally told them the truth about Dad. Dev and Faisal were supportive, but Kachun seemed uncomfortable. They promised to keep it a secret. At home, Mum kept complaining about little things. It felt like she was losing control. I missed Dad more and more, but he never called. I had the same dream over and over. Dad would drive by in a red sports car, wave at me, but never stop. I felt empty inside. One day, I decided to call Dad. I couldn't reach him, so I gave up. But later, he called me. Mum saw my face and grabbed the phone from me. She yelled at Dad and hung up. She didn't want him in our lives anymore. Nana Chapter 6. Trying to cope. After the phone incident, Mum became more watchful and suspicious of everything I did. Every day it felt like a game of cat and mouse. I tried to do as much as I could, and she tried to catch me out. One day she asked, "Why do you leave your computer on all the time?" "Why not?" I replied. "Don't answer me back," she snapped. "You're wasting electricity. You leave the lights on and the TV running even when you're not in the room?" I mumbled an apology and tried to go back to my room. "Hey, I haven't finished yet," she shouted. "When do you plan to do your homework?" "I'll do it when I'm ready," I said. "You'll do it when I say so," she yelled. We argued more, and I hated the way she talked about Raj, the dog. She never understood how much I cared for him. Then, Mum got a job. One evening, I overheard her talking to Auntie Sui Eng. She had got a job as an assistant to an advertising executive. I was happy for her, but secretly, I was glad she would be out of the house more. Soon, Puri, the maid, had to leave. She was going to take care of her sick mother. Mum found a temporary replacement, Esther, but I didn't like her much. With Mum working more, I spent more time with my friends and Raj. Mum was more relaxed and even let me stay at friends' houses. Things were getting better. Raj and I were very close. He had expressive eyes, and I always felt like he understood me. Every afternoon we went to the park to meet my friends. But one day, when we went to the playing field, we had to cross a busy road. I took Raj to the footbridge, but on the way back, I followed the others and didn't use the bridge. When we tried to cross, the traffic was too heavy. Dev made it across, but Raj ran ahead and was hit by a taxi. He died in my arms, and I couldn't stop crying. Chapter 7. A new friend. I was angry at Dev for Raj's death. If Dev hadn't waved at us, Raj might still be alive. I blamed myself too. I should have used the footbridge and stopped Raj from running into the road. But I still blamed Dev. I stopped seeing him after that. The memory of Raj was always in my mind, and I couldn't play football anymore. I stayed at home instead. Soon, everyone in the neighborhood knew about Dad leaving. The maids talked, and soon it spread everywhere. At school, it was the same. I noticed my friends whispering about me, and other kids gave me strange looks. I felt alone. I started avoiding my friends and believed they had told others about my family problems. It made me feel like a victim, isolated from everyone. One rainy day after school, I was stuck at school. Ka Ting, a rich boy from my class, offered me a ride. I didn't know him well, but I accepted. During the ride, Ka Ting asked about my life and even suggested I should go to real parties and get a girlfriend. He mentioned Jessica, a girl in our class who might like me. I felt awkward and didn't want to talk about it. When I got home, Auntie Sui Eng was there. She was having beer, which surprised me. She told me not to worry about what people think and that things would get better. She said she was there for me and that I should understand Mum's feelings too. It made me feel a little better. Chapter 8. Party Time. The next day at school, I saw Ka Ting talking with Jessica and Wendy. Wendy was obviously Ka Ting's girlfriend. Jessica kept glancing at me. Could she be interested in me? I was quite innocent for my age. I didn't think much about sex, but I had started to notice changes in myself. Jessica seemed special. She was tall like me, with long black hair, a beautiful figure, and sparkling eyes. After school, Jessica stopped me and invited me to her birthday party on Saturday. She smiled, and I was stunned. I managed to convince my mom to let me go, but she insisted on me being home by midnight. The party was at Pop Inn in Bangsar, a lively place full of bars, restaurants, and discos. I was early, and Jessica met me outside. We went for coffee before the others arrived. I gave her a card and a silver necklace, and she loved it. We went inside to join the others, and the place was loud and crowded. "Let's dance," Jessica said, and we joined the crowd. It didn't matter if you could dance, everyone was just moving to the music. After dancing, we went back to the table, and Jessica kissed me. It was a kiss like nothing I'd ever experienced. Suddenly, Ka Ting and the others returned. I felt embarrassed. I looked at my phone. It was 10:30, and my mom had called. I needed to figure out how to stay longer without upsetting her. Ka Ting offered me some white pills, and I took one. I didn't want to look out of place. Jessica pulled me onto the dance floor again. I felt dizzy, but good. The night felt perfect, and everything seemed like a dream. The next thing I knew, we were in a car heading to Jessica's house in Ampang. It was already 12:30, and I started to panic. At Jessica's house, she introduced me to her sister Jane. I called home, but Auntie Sui Eng answered. She told me my mum was in Malacca and everything was fine. She even helped me stay at the party longer without worrying about my mum. The night continued, and Jessica led me upstairs to her room. We kissed again, and everything felt perfect, even though I wasn't sure where it would lead. Chapter 9. Breaking out, I woke up with a headache and a dry mouth. I felt sick and dizzy, not recognizing the room I was in. There was no sign of Jessica, but my clothes were neatly folded on a chair. I drank a glass of water, but it didn't help much. I managed to take a shower and get dressed, then went downstairs to the kitchen. It was 11. I couldn't remember when I had fallen asleep. Outside, it was raining. Jane came in looking cheerful. "Good morning. I hope you enjoyed the party. Jessica's out for her tennis lesson. She asked me to give you this." She handed me a note from Jessica. "Dear Chi Seng, I hope you slept well. It was great last night. You were great too. I won't be back till this afternoon. Jane will look after you. Please call me when you get home. 012-567-891. See you tomorrow. Love, Jessica." I couldn't face breakfast, so Jane drove me home. We didn't talk much, but I felt comfortable with her, like Auntie Sui Eng, who treated me like an adult. Auntie Sui Eng was waiting for me when I got home. "Here comes the party hero," she joked. "Have you had breakfast?" I shook my head. She told me to rest, and I spent the afternoon sleeping in my room. When I woke up, Auntie Sui Eng asked about the party, and I said I had a good time. She reminded me to be careful and that she couldn't always protect me. Later, I realized I hadn't called Jessica. I called her and felt nervous. We spoke briefly, and she seemed a bit disappointed. The next day at school, Jessica acted distant. Ka Ting, however, was friendly and told me about another party next weekend. He promised Jessica would be there. I decided to ask my mum if I could go. She was not happy. "You went to a party last weekend. You can't go every time," she said. I argued, but she refused. The next day, I talked to Jessica and told her I was coming to the party. She was happy, and we made plans to meet at 8:30 at Holiday Stores. I had to find a way to leave the house without Mum noticing. On Saturday, Mum went out, and I got ready for the party. I left a note for her and went to meet Jessica. Jane drove us to the party, and Jessica looked great. The party was even better than last time. There were drinks and food, and I danced with Jessica. Ka Ting offered me pills again, but I decided not to take them. I made Jessica call Jane, even though she didn't want to. When we were leaving, Ka Ting tried to get me to stay, offering more pills and saying there was more fun to be had, but I refused. At the end of the night, Jane dropped me off at home. Mum was waiting for me, looking furious. I knew I was in trouble now. Chapter 10. Jessica's problem. Mum's voice was cold. "Come here if you can walk straight." When I reached her, she slapped me hard across the face. I felt the sting and saw blood from where her ring had cut me. "Let that teach you to make a fool of me," she said. "We'll talk in the morning. Now get to your room." Later, as I tried to sleep, my mind raced with thoughts about Jessica, Mum, and Dad. I was confused and angry. The next morning, Mum was waiting for me at breakfast. She asked, "What's going on?" I tried to explain, but she didn't understand. She told me I couldn't go out again until Puri returned, which would be in 2 weeks. After Mum left, I got a text from Jessica. She sounded upset and wanted to talk. I invited her over, knowing Mum wouldn't be back until evening. Jessica arrived crying. She told me her parents were sending her to Australia to finish school because of some trouble she had with a man and party pills. "I have to go by the end of the term," she said, "and I'll never see you again." I didn't know what to do. We spent hours together, but couldn't find a solution. She left at 5 p.m. and we agreed to meet the next day. The next day at school, Ka Ting invited me to a party, but I couldn't go. Mum had cut my allowance, and I was stuck at home. He offered me money and invited me to another party soon, but I was still stuck. Then an idea formed. Maybe there was a way out of this problem after all. Chapter 11. A Way of Escape. I spoke to Jessica in a quiet corner of the library before going home that day. "Jessica, I have an idea, but I need to know one thing. Are you sure you want to be with me? Are you sure you'd do anything not to go to Australia?" She put a finger to my lips. "I'm sure. Don't ask me again." "So, listen to my idea and tell me if it's crazy," I said. Jessica took my hand. "I'd do anything to be with you, crazy or not." I explained, "We go to Ka Ting's party next Saturday just before you leave for Australia. After everyone leaves, we pretend to leave but come back. We stay at his place, then take a bus to Perlis. My uncle has a bungalow there, and we can stay for a few days before crossing into Thailand. It's easy. We can find jobs there. But we'll need money and to pack light," Jessica said. "I'll figure out where to get money," I replied. We'll travel with backpacks, no big suitcases. We spent the next few days planning, feeling excited about our secret. At home, I tried to act normal to avoid suspicion. My mum looked stressed, but I didn't ask her about it, not wanting to upset her. One evening, she came home late and looked very tired. She was drinking whiskey and seemed distant. She sang, "I'm having problems at work. I'm not sure how much longer I can keep my job. If I leave, we'll have trouble paying for everything. I'm sorry, Mum. Is there anything I can do?" "No, I just wanted you to know," she said. "And Auntie Sui Eng invited you for dinner on Saturday." I was happy to go, as I always enjoyed spending time with Auntie Sui Eng. That evening we sat in her garden drinking mango juice, and she asked about my life. She also mentioned worrying about my mum. "She's been looking unwell for a while." "I'll talk to her," Auntie Sui Eng said. "I think she needs someone to talk to." Later, Auntie Sui Eng showed me family photos. She told me about her past and a man named Ghana, who she had met in Perak. She looked at a photo of them together, lost in thought. I asked her how they met, but she didn't answer immediately. She said, "That was a time before independence, a different world." She explained how her father worked in the Ministry of Agriculture and how she was raised strictly, with high expectations. But after independence, things became difficult, and she didn't go to London to study as planned. Instead, she went to Singapore. "Maybe we'll talk more another time," she said, sighing, and we left for home. Chapter 12. The Best Plans. I felt a bit guilty about using Auntie Sui Eng, but it helped my plan. On Saturday, I would go to her house, leave before Mum got home, and meet Jessica at Ka Ting's. We had everything arranged. Jessica would give Ka Ting her backpack to keep, and we would meet at the party. We were both nervous as the day approached. At home, I acted normal to avoid raising any suspicion. Mum seemed very tired and sick. I kept my thoughts on Jessica and our escape, but I couldn't help but worry about Mum. On Wednesday, Mum talked about her work stress and her health problems. She mentioned Auntie Sui Eng had invited me over for dinner on Saturday. I was glad because it gave me the perfect excuse to leave. Saturday came, and Auntie Sui Eng picked me up. We spent a lovely evening together. She played more classical music for me, and I began to understand why she loved it so much. We also talked about her past. She shared stories about a man named Ghana, whom she had loved. She told me they had to keep their love secret because of family and social expectations. Later, I asked more about Ghana. Auntie Sui Eng explained how they met, and she even ran away with him for a month. It was the happiest time of her life. But soon her mood shifted, and she asked me not to ask any more about the past. I noticed she seemed sad. She took me home, and as we drove, she asked if I was okay. I lied, saying I was just thinking about Mum. She assured me that if I ever needed to talk, she was there. The plan was moving forward, and I couldn't stop thinking about what would happen next. Chapter 13. Pool Party. When I got home, I quickly packed my backpack with clothes and other things I needed. I also took my laptop and some childhood items, like shells and football posters, but I knew I had to leave them behind. I picked up my old kaleidoscope, thinking how my life was changing, just like the patterns in the toy. I went to Mum's room and took 1,000 ringgit from her drawer, feeling bad but knowing I needed it for Jessica and me. I then took a taxi to Ka Ting's party. At the party, there were expensive cars, and it was very busy. Ka Ting showed me to the room where Jessica's backpack was. I saw her dancing with a man I didn't know. He was much older, dressed strangely, and I felt jealous. Ka Ting offered me some pills, but I said no. I didn't want to take anything. I tried to enjoy the party, but Jessica kept dancing with that man. I saw him give small packets to others, and I felt uncomfortable. Later, I tried to kiss Jessica, but she turned away, saying we would have time later. As the night went on, things got crazier. People were jumping into the pool. I was shocked to see Jessica topless in the water. The man threw her into the pool, and soon I couldn't see her. I jumped in to find her and pulled her out. She wasn't breathing, and I got scared. Chapter 14. Beyond parental control, when Jessica was pulled out of the pool, I started giving her mouth to mouth. After a while, she started breathing again, but she still didn't open her eyes. I felt strange touching her. She seemed like a stranger now. The police arrived and stopped everyone from leaving. They asked questions and checked everyone's pockets. When it was my turn, I felt scared. They found pills in Ka Ting's pockets, and he told me not to mention them. We were all taken to the police station in vans. At the station, I was put in a small cell with 3 others. It was hot and uncomfortable, and we had to share a bucket for the toilet. I thought about Jessica and my mum. I felt ashamed and tired. In the morning, we were given a small meal, and then they started questioning us one by one. When it was my turn, the inspector asked about the party and the pills. I told him the truth, that I didn't take the pills. He also asked about Jessica and if I had given her mouth to mouth. I said yes. He told me that I might have saved her life, but she was still in the hospital and might not make it. After a long wait, Auntie Sui Eng came to collect me. She knew the inspector and got me released with a warning. I was now listed as beyond parental control, meaning I had to behave, or she would be responsible. As we drove home, Auntie Sui Eng held my hand and promised to explain everything to my mom. Chapter 15. Auntie Sui Eng takes charge. On the way to the hospital, Auntie Sui Eng told me what had happened. Mum had come home late on Saturday night, tired, and gone straight to bed. She didn't check if I was asleep, and only realized I was gone on Sunday morning. She called Auntie Sui Eng, who came over right away. They found my things missing and knew I had run away. Mum also discovered some money was gone. Auntie Sui Eng said, "Your mother was so upset. She cried all the time. We even called your father to see if you'd gone to him, but they just blamed each other." Then we got a call from Jane about Jessica's accident and the police raid. We saw the news reports about the drug party tragedy. We knew you were in trouble. I felt guilty for causing so much pain. Auntie Sui Eng continued, "I contacted my old friend in the police, Inspector Sundaram. He helped me get you out. He gave you a warning because of something that happened when he was younger." I felt lucky that Auntie Suyang had saved me. But then she told me something awful. Your mom is in the ICU. She took sleeping pills last night but called me when she changed her mind. We don't know if she'll recover. I was shocked. I had run away, and Mum had tried to take her life. I felt terrible. Auntie Suyang said, "It's not just your fault. Your mum has been under a lot of stress. She lost her job last week, and when she found out about your troubles, she broke down. People sometimes crack under pressure. It's not your fault, and it's not hers. It's just how life is." We arrived at the hospital, and I knew I was about to face something scary. I hated hospitals. Chapter 16. Picking Up the Pieces. The doctor comes into the waiting room. He tells us that Mum is in serious condition but stable for now. We need to wait for more news tomorrow. I feel strange returning home after thinking I might never see it again. Puri is back, smiling as always. She doesn't mention Mum's situation. Auntie Suyang moves in to help us. She plays Handel's water music and tells me about it. The phone rings, but it's about Jessica, not Mum. She's out of danger and recovering. After dinner, Auntie Suyang tells me about Mr. Ghana. He died in a car accident on his way to see her. She also shares her story about getting pregnant with Ghana's child after his death. She went to Singapore to avoid family gossip. She never married, but forgave her family long ago. The next morning, we hear from the hospital that Mum is awake and better. I'm relieved. When we visit, Mum is sitting up, bruised but smiling. She thanks Auntie Suyang. Mum and I talk about Dad. She says he wants to come home, but she's not sure. Auntie Suyang decides I shouldn't return to school until Mum is home. Every day she helps me with schoolwork. Mum is improving and could be home next week. Dad arrives at the hospital with roses, but I'm not sure about seeing him again. He insists we meet the next day. At the Kopitiam, he apologizes for everything, saying he made mistakes. I still feel angry, but I understand a little. He asks if I want to meet him regularly, but I'm not sure. A few days later, I visit Jessica in the hospital. She thanks me for saving her life, but we both know things have changed between us. She's going to Australia soon. I don't feel angry, just sad that it's over. The next day, Auntie Suyang and Puri are busy preparing something. Then, Mum comes home. It's a surprise. Puri makes lunch and I get a new laptop for my birthday from Mum. Auntie Suyang gives me a photo album and Puri gives me a beautiful shirt from her country. The day is filled with love and celebration. Later, my friends Faisal, Kachun, and Dev visit with presents. I'm happy they're here. We play basketball together. In the evening, Dad arrives with a puppy as my birthday gift. I thank him. Mum doesn't come down until he leaves. Now I'm 17. I know my family loves me. I have a dog again, and I understand that things happen, but we can rise above them. I'm ready for whatever comes next. Later, Dad calls to wish me a happy birthday. He wants to have lunch with me next Saturday. I'm not sure, but I'll think about it.